The Charlotte Hornets are on a 3-game win streak. Brandon Miller might be out for the season. It's going to be a show of mixed emotions. But one thing we know right now, Sam, is the Hornets have got 3 games in a row. They are streaking.
But we're good streaking! Yes!
Let's go.
Shout out Will Ferrell and the old school fans for a certain portion of our audience. And if you're under the age of 25 and you've not seen old school, you've got a movie that you need to catch up on before next week's podcast. Sam, how was that? How did you enjoy that? Matinee basketball, Martin Luther King Day, an entertaining game, a Hornets win. It was a good time.
Man, it's great. It was a beautiful thing. I usually watch Hornets games on my MacBook, but because, middle of the day, had the TV living room to myself, popped it on the big screen, had Eric Collins and Del Curry on full blast. The Hive was alive. It was cool. It was a nice,
great crowd. Great crowd tonight, by the way. Sellout, I heard as well, which is really impressive. So I'm glad that crowd got that kind of game, because it was like, even if the Hornets had lost, it was a fun game. There was back and forth. There was big moments. There were star players on both teams, even with Luka out. Mm-hmm. It was like a good, entertaining basketball game, and there was this good stuff to watch. But I have to be honest, I was watching it thinking like, the Hornets are going to lose this out in the end. It's all going to fall down. Like, it felt like they were down 10 and they were like down 2 for most of the second half. But a really impressive win to pull it out against the Mavericks squad. Look, both teams are missing players. But I have to say, the thing that stood out to me as a story for this game was just a super impressive effort and energy for the team. Like, how many times do fans criticize people's effort and energy? And then I don't feel like we give enough praise for when it's really positive. And I thought just the whole approach, locked in side of things was outstanding in this game. And this is not a team that is like sleepwalking its way through January, which, looking at the record and the injuries, we've seen Hornets teams in the past start to do that now.
Yeah, like I think the energy was good all game, but especially in those final 5 minutes ish of the game where they came up with 2 massive defensive stops. And that's where oh my God, like we got a glimpse of what this team is fully capable of. And like it made me want to run through like a brick wall. It got me so hyped in my living room. I was so excited and pumped up seeing the players be so excited and pumped up and locked in on the defensive end, creating opportunities on the other end. Like right around the 5-minute mark, the game was tied 102 all. Hornets get a stop. Smith Jr. hits a 3, and then they get another stop. Next time Dallas has a possession, I'm like, yes, let's go, boys. Like it was fire. That is how I want to spend my afternoons watching Hornets basketball. Whenever they play in the afternoons, of course.
Yeah. And I tell you what, Sam, there was only one player who was forcing shots and taking like bad, low percentage ISO looks down the stretch of the game. And it was not Lamelo Ball. It was Kyrie Irving. And I actually think, he got his numbers right. He had his moments. What did he finish with in the end? 33 points. But there were turnovers there. There were missed shots. Like, I felt like them slowing everything down and just playing through him and not involving Gafford at all actually helped the Hornets down the stretch.
Gafford was a problem, bro.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that because I think he scored 7 baskets on 7 offensive rebounds in the first half, and he got a new career high 31 points, 7 blocks, 15. Anyone got Daniel Gafford in fantasy right now is winning their week. That was really. It feels like Gafford always plays well against Charlotte, but I mean he's never played that well. That was pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think that was a career high for him, and understandably so. Like, geez, bro, like anything he wanted, he got.
Yeah. And I mean, we should talk about the Mark Williams side because it was hard to watch at times. And it wasn't just Mark Williams, but I actually feel like Moussa Diabate probably fared better against Gafford than Williams. But as good as Williams has been offensively, and I've talked about this already, but we've got even more of a sample now. Like, he's just had Vucevic and Gafford just like put up between them, like 70 points in 2 games. And a lot of it is him. Like, they're able they don't feel his presence down there as a shot blocker. They're able to move him really easily. His strength and post defense is just non-existent, and people are easy able to score against him. And he's got 7'1", longest wingspan in the NBA outside of Wembanyama. Irrelevant if he's not the strongest, it shouldn't be that comfortable for opposing players. And if he hadn't been injured for like a year, then I would be more worried, because I'm still thinking like he's just getting back into things. But we saw this even before that. There is some concern here around Mark Williams' ability to stop interior scorers versus like he's actually better at like times on wings and point guards.
Yeah. Because remember, like, people were throwing out the Time Lord comparisons with him.
Yeah, that's what he threw out pre-draft for himself. I remember.
And that Robert Williams, like, he was a help side defender, right? And maybe that's what Mark Williams is destined to be. Not that anchor, but that secondary post guy, which isn't ideal, right? The Hornets need that anchor defensively, but I don't know, that maybe this is who Mark Williams just is. You need a bigger body down there to pair with him.
There's definitely something to that. Like, irrelevant of him getting back. Like, people say, oh, he just needs to get stronger. I'm sorry. Like, he's in whatever it is, year 3. He was a sophomore anyway. What is he, 23 years old now? Like, he will obviously get stronger, but just look at the guy's build. Look at where his like waist is. He's never going to be a banger down low. And the more weight he puts on, the more risk he has of back flaring up again, which he just missed basically the whole season through. So I think you can look at this right now and go, okay, it can improve, but it will always probably be an issue. And look, you get it on the other end. You have 7 offensive rebounds tonight and a bunch of offensive rebounds the other night. There's gives and takes with it, but right now it's got a pretty clear kind of weakness. Is like, if you're going up against another opposing big who's got some offensive skill or plus strength, then it could be a difficult night for Mark.
Yeah, and yeah, he was getting pushed around, and I know he got into foul trouble, and he didn't really help his own case later in the game, especially. But yeah, Bridges was having a really tough time against Gafford as well. And it's just it's that thing that brings me back to it's been a running theme the last few years with the Hornets, where an opposing team's big really shows out because the Hornets bigs can't really match him. Like, I remember getting torched by Chris Boucher. Like, they're guys that just aren't high-level NBA guys that have damn near career nights against the Hornets. And that's been a running theme because the center position has been such an unanswered, or I feel like maybe an unrealized, like, area of need that hasn't been properly addressed yet. And I don't know. I think Mark Williams has a ton of upside and potential still. But no, he got fully bullied by Gafford, like fully bullied.
And look, in other years, you're right. Like, they're rebounding. They've been towards the bottom of the NBA in rebounding, like defensive rebounding. This year, they're actually much better in that department. And I think that's partly down to having both Williams and Richards at times. Diabate's a beast on the boards. You've even got like 6'10" T-John Salon. Can't do a lot of things, but rebounding's okay. 6'9" Brandon Miller out there. But you look at this team, what is it missing from the previous 3 weeks? Nick Richards, 7 foot. Brandon Miller, 6'9". Salon, 6'10". They're missing a lot of size right now. You know, they got, after Mark Williams, who's 7'1", you've got Diabate, who's basically 6'9", 6'10". And then it's a bunch of like 6'7", 6'8" guys in Bridges, Ball, and that's it. So they aren't the biggest right now, and they're probably not going to be for the rest of the season. So I think this could be something to monitor in terms of struggling on the interior with defensive rebounding for the rest of the season, partly because of that Nick Richards trade and just partly because of the injuries as well.
Yeah, we saw Okogie play, like when Okogie's out there, but with Melo, Curry, Martin, and Diabate, he has to play power forward. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's like 6'4", 6'5", maybe. So to your point, it gets real light real quick.
Yeah, and even though Okogie is 6'4", I saw loads of people after the trade talking about him like he's some shooting guard small forward, and he's always been like a power forward, basically. I think in Phoenix this year, let's have a look. I did look this up when they made the trade. He played a third of his minutes at power forward this year in Phoenix, and he's basically been around that like throughout the league between the 3 and the 4. So it's not completely like, oh my god, he's just playing power forward in Charlotte, but he's obviously, you saw him tonight. He's a big body, right? And he can use that. What did you make of the Okogie performance? Because the first time we got to see him on the floor, In his minutes, he finished with 90 minutes. It was 4 rebounds, 5 points, 1 assist, and 2 steals, 1 turnover. 2 of 8 from the field, 1 of 3 from beyond the arc. What did you make of that all-round performance outside of the box score?
I thought it was really shaky, like really, really shaky offensively to start. Like missed corner 3. I think he maybe missed 2 threes, missed a layup at one point, had a really forced and bad putback attempt, and had another attempt where he's just like, I guess he was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt here that was maybe trying to draw a foul, but it was a really terrible field goal attempt. And then, it kind of clicked. He hit a 3. And then, there's been, but on the defensive side, I think he's a heads up player. And he has the size to like really make things happen. Offensively, I don't think we're gonna get much out of him. But defensively, I think that's where his value is gonna be. When the trade happened, I wasn't sure he was gonna stick around. First off, I should probably lead with that. It seems like he's part of the plans as of now, but with his contract being non-guaranteed next season, you never really know. But as part of this squad, offensively, not so great. Defensively, I could see the upside in him being a rotation player there.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get onto the trade a little bit later in the podcast, and we can dive into kind of some of the things. But yeah, in this game, I agree. I thought he looked a little bit unsure. There was even the fast break where I think he had like a 3-and-1, and he passed out to Micic for 3, and I was like, oh no, Josh, like you're making the assumption here that like the white, unathletic European guy must be a great shooter, and he's not. It is far from that. But like I just put that down to getting to know your personnel a little bit better. But look, I thought the team functioned okay when it was out there. He wasn't doing like anything out of the flow of the offense, but defensively is where he needs to hang his hat. I thought he'd be a bit like springier and quicker. Like he looks a bit heavy and slow
like
out there.
Yeah.
And for someone who's like got a high steals, high block player, normally they are kind of like freaky athletes that really jump off the page with the way they move, and that's how they generate a lot of those. So I'm interested to kind of watch him a little bit more and learn a little bit about that. But yeah, I thought it was a shaky start, but with Brandon Miller seemingly going to be out for a little while here, kind of a blessing for Okogie, because he might have an every night rotation spot now as a kind of like a 3 who can play out on the wing. It's just a shame they've also got Josh Green and Cody Martin, who are 2 of the like similar defense first wings.
Yeah.
Because they kind of having them all on the floor, 2 of them on the floor at the same time, just really hurts your offense. And they kind of all would fit better if they were surrounded by better offensive players.
Yeah, and like he was out there with Micic and Martin and Diabate at one point. He being Okogie is like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're putting a lot.
That's why he took 8 shots. Like he does not think he's taking 8 shots coming off the bench, but someone has to try and shoot in those units. And there's really guys out there who equally are also unconfident with shooting.
Yeah.
So yeah. Let's go positive, because I feel like I've touched on a lot of negatives. We're going to talk NSJ later. Let's do Lamelo.
Okay.
He had 20 points at halftime. I think 20 points, 4 assists, 1 rebound at halftime. Had a really good half, finished it really strongly. Then in the second half, that meant that he will have only had 3 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists in the second half. What did you make of the Lamelo Ball game overall?
I think Lamelo, because he had 5 threes in this game. They were all in the first half, right?
All in the first half. Yeah.
It's wild. Like it's wild. If you told me that, I would assume he went for like 30 plus, right? And for that not to carry over into the second half isn't great. There's percentages over the course of the game. Field goal, he shot 38% over the entirety of the game. Like that's not ideal. Like it's everybody, we know he's a high volume guy. But I think him really got into his like point guard bag in the second half, where the shot maybe took a little step back and really try to get other guys involved. And I like that from him.
Yeah, look, I thought in the first half he got quite a few looks in transition, a lot more of the open ones, and I feel like Dallas probably did a little bit of a better job before that. In the second half, just being able to take some of that away. especially those 2 open threes that I think he had before the end of the first half. Second, I really liked some of his playmaking tonight. I thought he had some incredible passes out to the corners. Nick Smith Jr. got one. Cody Martin got one. He was like finding guys right in the corner, right in the shooting pocket, and really creatively doing those as well. So I really liked that. And then notable the lower number of shot attempts the last 2 games a little bit. I mean, I think the 4 games before the last 2, he was had 27 attempts, 28 attempts, 25 attempts, and 20 attempts. The last 2, he's had 21 and 19, which it doesn't feel like he's forced it quite as much. And I do feel like he's doing a better job of understanding what the defense are doing and making the right play without feeling like he has to be the one. So like he found Mark Williams a ton, especially at the start of the 4th quarter in the seam. And you hear Charles Lee talk about this all the time. Hit Mark Williams in the seam pass, let him make a play. Mark Williams can drive for the dunk or can find it to kick out shooters. And I feel like we're really beginning to see that come to life a little bit. And we're seeing LaMelo trust Mark Williams with that. Yep. And that's been really encouraging to see because I just think that is a better balanced version of LaMelo Ball where he doesn't feel like I've just got to get, 25 to 30 shots up per night. And I wonder if Charles Lee's had a chat with him about that. Ever since that stat came out that said, I think he's taken the most shot attempts in the NBA history since Wilt Chamberlain. Was that right? Like in terms like per minute or per game? Ever since that stat came out, he's reined it in a little bit. And I don't know if he's seen that or Charles Lee's seen that. Whatever it is, I'm liking the balance and play. And
you would think it'd go the other way with Brandon Miller being out, right? Because Miller, he was 18 attempts in a night. And so like how are those attempts be distributed out? But with what Mark Williams brings offensively, right? And Bridges had a really good game. I keep saying night. It was an afternoon game. Had a really good afternoon himself. And so like, is the 30-point a night LaMelo the LaMelo we should expect to see, or is it the low 20s with the what do you have, like 6 and 7 boards or whatever, like 6 assists and 7 boards? Like where is the point where LaMelo will settle in at? I don't think we really know that yet. Like where
we don't know where he will. I know where I would like him to settle, and it's this LaMelo Ball right here. It is a much better balance between scoring and playmaking. I think just look at how many contributions there were from other players tonight around the team. Cody Martin, Moussa Diabate, Nick Smith Jr., like he showing some trust in NSJ as well. And I prefer that version than just the like if LaMelo hits some crazy threes in the 3rd and the 4th quarters, the Hornets might win this game. I just feel that puts too much on him. And I'm hoping this is growth. That's what I want to see. But I do agree with Brandon Miller out. Like there is an argument to say in certain games, okay, like we need someone to take some of these shots and just get them up.
Right. And we can just go down the list of the roster, right? Josh Green is probably like, you know what? I know there are 18 shots available. I'm good. I don't want them. Right. But we know Bridges was like, I'll take some of those shots. Nick Smith Jr. is like, I'll take some of those. Mark Williams like, I'll take some of those. Like those guys have their hands up in the air trying to get involved to make up that Brandon Miller offensive production. And when it's there, it's great. Like Nick Smith Jr. career night, right? First start of the season. Absolutely great. And I hope it continues because the Hornets are going to need it.
Yeah, we're going to get into Nick Smith Jr. In this next section here. How about Miles Bridges' improved play recently, right? It definitely feels like he has picked up a little bit from where he started the season. And then he was a little bit slow when he came back from the knee injury. But I feel, again, he's finding better ways to get to his shot. His 3-point shots definitely come around. I'm not quite sure what it is in the last 5 games, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a marked improvement. It's beginning to look like it's clicking for him as well, when early in the season, it looked way out of sorts for him.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, there's another like a weird benefit of no Miller. This dynamic, Miller and LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges, that dynamic is comfortable. There's years of that experience, like the LaMelo, Miles, and Brandon experience. That's new. And there isn't it's for what we have now with Melo and Miles is familiar. And we're seeing LaMelo bring the best out of Miles in this situation. And I think it could be a return to what we've seen from Bridges before everything happened, where he was trending upwards because of this familiarity, like this production, the looks he's getting without Brandon Miller around. I think that's something to be mindful of and watchful for, of a little bit of throwback of how it was before they drafted Brandon Miller.
Yeah, it absolutely could be. And yeah, he's definitely finding better percentage looks. Like he's not having to force it as much. He's getting open more. I think he's been better defensively. I've really noticed since those two Phoenix games. So definitely an uptick in Miles, and that needed to happen because it had not been a good start to the season. Anything else here around this Dallas Mavericks Hornets game? I thought there was a really interesting ATO at the end where Miles Bridges blatantly didn't do something right, and Charles Lee had to call timeout when they couldn't inbound the ball, and he kind of went over to him, and they had to put in another ATO and managed to get the ball in. So I thought if that wasn't good execution by Bridges, but I thought other than that, I felt like they executed pretty well down the stretch, and especially like defensively, the hustle on the glass, the effort was super there. Like denying Kyrie Irving the ball, making it difficult for him, battling Gafford on the boards late in the fourth. I thought they really closed out the game well, and that's a couple games in a row now that the Hornets have done that. And we talked about the clutch struggles, didn't we, last week, about all the issues. Well, they've definitely put a dent in some of those poor clutch numbers in the last few games with the Bulls win, with this win. So definitely feels like they're making progress, and progress within the season, which is good to see.
Yeah, my final thoughts. It's good to see PJ back. Always enjoy
good to
some
see him
PJ.
missing all those shots. That's for sure.
And one Josh Green thing. I don't have the quarter marked down, but at one point he had a wide open three and just fully overthought it. Pump fake and just
saw the ghost and pump faked a ghost, didn't he?
Yeah, man. Like that was rough. And then Okogie's made three off of the Mitric assist, which is basically, I was pulling my hair out because I almost said Valley Sports, was it FanDuel, whatever it's called now? They had an angle right. It's not the standard sideline angle that's right behind the players, like a half court angle down the court. And you can see Mitric dribbling, and Okogie's wide open in the corner. And you can see the shot clock. And I'm like, Mitric, pass the ball to Josh, please. Pass it. And Mitric dribbles that thing down to like 1 second or 1 or 2 seconds, hits Okogie, who's wide open the entire time, gives him a hand grenade. Okogie drains it. Everything worked out fine. But like, bro, Mitric is killing me. I was like, just pass the ball. Please pass the ball. And that camera angle just purely like really highlighted how open he was. Because from the sideline with the depth, you can't really tell the spacing when in that near corner. But from that angle, bro, you could see he had all the daylight in the world. And thankfully, Mitric gave the ball up, and Okogie made his first bucket as a Hornet. But man, that was a tough one.
Let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say he was waiting to draw the second defender away. Let's be nice there. Okay, we didn't talk Nick Smith Jr. because we want to zoom out a little bit and talk about his play the last 5-6 games really. He's been, and this was before tonight's game against Dallas, so I don't have the updated stats, but around 21, 22 minutes per game, around 11 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, shooting 40% from the field, 39% from 3, 1.4 turnovers a game. Is this real signs of progress? Is this a hot stretch? Is this, showcasing him before the trade deadline? There was a little rumor out from Mark Stein around his name being out there. What are you seeing from Nick Smith?
I think this is very real and very deliberate. I think I want to start with deliberate first because he's getting to the same points on the floor. Like whatever Nick Smith is doing in his in practice or the things he's working on, it's clearly translating to the court because he's finding a spot in the corner or just above the free throw line or on the wing. Like a lot of his shots the shot selection mirrors all their shots. And that seems deliberate to me, that he knows where he wants to be and he knows what he's good at. And I think it's real because the Hornets need him like badly. And they need him to step up while Trey Mann's out, while Brandon Miller's out, because there's no one else who's going to give you any high level offense on the roster at that position. So I don't think they're trying to like window shop him or whatever, because they don't have to yet. Like they don't have to make a decision on what they want to do with Nick Smith. If this was like his last year of his rookie deal and they didn't know if they wanted to pay him or not, I could see that. But they have time with him to figure this out if he's part of the plans. And as a starter, he seems like he should be part of the plans, at least from this one game.
Yeah, look, he's definitely had the best stretch here of his pro career. No doubt he has had moments where he's impacted the game. He's given this Hornets offense a boost when he's been out on the floor. I think most of it's come from three, right? Like he shot the three ball really well, and he shot it on high volume, and he shot it from deep beyond the 3-point line, and he's really helped create space out there. That should not just be like taken for granted. And I think that is 100% real. We saw him shoot the ball really well last year. It is pretty much everything else that is a work in progress. And, you know, I think he's shooting better from three this year than he is from the field overall. Like his 2-point percentage is pretty non-existent. He has 0 free throws made on the year. Sorry, 0 free throw attempts on the year. No, 2 free throw attempts this year. I'm reading along right here. For the whole season, 2 free throw attempts. And I tweeted this out before the game. He has, for his whole career, 17 free throw attempts. And he had 8 in one game last season. Which means he has 9 in the rest of all the other games combined.
Right.
Like, he is just an absolute non-factor, like, scoring anywhere other than the mid-range kind of pull-up floater that he kind of has, which looks nice when it goes in, and when it doesn't, it's probably just not a great shot. And then he has the 3. You know what? I'm not normally someone to have this point of view, but I really kind of do believe that they might be showcasing him for, like, trade value. Like, I know you say they need him, but I wonder that, like, when healthy, do they need him? And is he well-rounded enough to be, like, a positive player on a better team? You're right that this Hornets team need him because the offense is so bad. So I think it kind of looks better than it is. If you actually look at, like, all the advanced metrics and you look at his overall impact, if you look at his defense, his turnover, it's not great. Like, it's fine, and it's been better recently. But even his better recently is, like, below average NBA player.
Right.
So I'm trying not to get too carried away with this. He's still young, 20 and a half years old, but I'm trying to not, like, overreact in the moment and be like, this is the moment, it's breakout. I'm trying to stay more tethered to, like, looking at the whole body of work.
Yeah, no doubt. And this was his first start this season, maybe career.
Second? Was he starting the Bulls?
Let me check.
It has been a bit of a rotating door of who starts, so it has been confusing.
Let's see here. Yes, he did. My bad. Yeah, he scored. He definitely scored. He played against the Bulls. Yeah. But you know, it's all very new, and I think for now, like I think it's more than okay to be, like, excited about this. And
I agree. If you're a fan, get excited. Like that's not. I didn't view that as my job. I view it as to try, like, analyze and, I guess, like, try and call stuff how it is, rather than, you know, everyone being terrible when they lose and everyone being fantastic when they win. But that's not absolutely. I think fans should be excited. They get to see a young player playing well.
But, like, all right, let's pretend this is real, okay? And that. I don't say pretend, because it could be real. Like, I feel like if I say pretend, it means it's not going to happen. But when's the next time we're going to see Trey Mann play? You know?
Well, we should have got an update earlier this last week, and we didn't.
So I say that to say the Hornets are going to have to make a decision on Trey Mann. And it's in the Hornets' best interest to know what they have in Nick Smith Jr. when they're going into those discussions with Trey Mann. Because if Nick Smith Jr. offers bench scoring at a good level, then then Trey Mann's value with the roster, with the team, it goes down. And I think it's in the Hornets' best interest, whether they're trying to trade him or not, is to figure out what they got with this guy. And I appreciate that they're giving him this run to see where they're at with Nick Smith Jr.
Yeah, and I think he will offer you bench scoring, Nick Smith. I think that's not my issue. It's the everything else. And I think Charles even said it before the game. It's like, we know Nick can score. Mm-hmm. He said, what we want to see is like him impacting the games in other ways. So that's his distribution. And right now he's like only just got like 1 or 2 more assists than turnovers for the season. So that's not looking great. And then it's the defensive end where he had some really bad plays on Patty Mills in that game, where they're just like leaving him open. He had other mistakes. He had another mistake tonight. Like there are some glaring jump off the screen mistakes, which when you're kind of a little bit one-dimensional and you're a role player coming off the bench, you just can't afford to have. I personally think Seth Curry's been better this season than Nick Smith Jr. And like, if I was trying to win games right now, I would play Seth Curry. I know they're kind of not, and they're wanting to see what they have, so I don't disagree with what they're doing. And like all the on-offs and the shooting percentages and the defense, I think all gives Seth Curry the nod. But again, I'm not saying they're doing the wrong thing. I just think it's the other parts of the game that we haven't really seen growth in those areas from Nick Smith since he's been like a rookie, right? Those defense, distribution, playing without the ball, being able to cut, like those things haven't seen development. And he's just doing what we already knew he could do well, which is like score from mid-range and shoot the 3, which is great that he's doing that. And he's more confident and the game has slowed down and he's not forcing shots the same way. I still find myself not believing that this is like a super positive player yet for this team, maybe long term. This front office didn't draft him. Right. Like if they could be a move out there that they can get positive value for him, maybe they jump on this now while there's value there.
So prior to this run, I viewed him as a throw-in to a trade.
Yes, absolutely. He showed nothing, right, in 2 years on the NBA court with professional NBA players. He showed nothing.
Do you think if there's 3 or 4 more games like this, he'll become the focal point of a trade? Or will he still be in the throw-in kind of category where you have a deal and you want to just throw in another player in to push it over the edge?
I don't know. He could be. He's certainly boosted his value. Okay. It's a guy who went from he was a first round pick and he can't get on the court in 2 years to he's now started the game and he's made a positive impact from 3 and he's shown that he can be a scorer, which was kind of like theoretical in the G League, but he's now proved he can do it in the NBA as well. Mm-hmm. The question again will be, what is a scorer who struggles on the defensive end, can't distribute, like is completely reliant on jump shots and floaters to score? What is the value of that? I think that's where teams might not view him to quite still be that valuable yet.
Okay. Fair.
I know this is super harsh. This is terrible to be this harsh, but it's like the best stretch of his career.
I thought this was to be a positive segment.
Well, look, I was positive. This is the hard thing, right? Like I said, this is by far the best he's played in his entire career. Like, I don't want to take that away. I want to say that as many times as I can. Like, he is gone to show that he can contribute at an NBA level. This is all just coming across terribly now. I feel awful. I don't want to be this guy. But equally, I just don't want to get carried away when the glaring holes that were there still remain. I hope people can see where I'm coming from here.
Right.
Charles Lee said the same thing basically before the game. Is this, which is what I'd already made my notes earlier today before I heard that, where he was like, yeah, we need him to lock in defensively, not lose guys off the ball, and we need him to affect the game in other ways. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly how I feel.
That's fair.
Brandon Miller. I should probably have actually written down. I've got all my notes here. I'm not even written down the exact injury that he has. The scapulinate ligament. I probably murdered that.
Yeah, I couldn't even pronounce it.
The scapulinate ligament, which has been torn, out indefinitely. from my, internet sleuthing research I found is that it's a rare-ish NBA injury. I think Jaylen Brown had this injury. Bradley Beal had this injury. Interestingly, it's the most frequently sprained ligament in the wrist, but it seems to be rarely torn. But look, the good news is both Jaylen Brown and Bradley Beal have torn that, come back, and they've been, still high-level players. We don't have a timeline on the injury, so we don't know if we're going to see him again this season. Initial reports kind of suggest it's 4 to 6 months, which would make it very unlikely for Brandon Miller to be back. I personally think that he would have done for the season. There's nothing for him to rush back for.
Right.
Just another gut punch, right? Just another gut punch. Just as the Hornets were beginning to get their core three, the key three or the core four, whatever you want to call them, playing together, Brandon Miller goes down with a serious long-term injury, and it fucking sucks.
I mean, yeah, I don't. That's all you can say. Like it's brutal, like truly brutal. Like this was meant to be for me. My expectations of the team. This was the year for all the kids to figure it out. Right, all the young players to figure this thing out, get better and learn how to play with each other. And then removing Miller from the mix is very, very unfortunate. And really delays that whole thing. So now theoretically, right, if I had it my way, the Hornets add a top 3 pick to this mix, and then you kind of have you're kind of starting that mesh period over again. Got Miller now back, hopefully. Whatever kid they end up with in the top 3 of the draft with Williams and Lamelo, and you kind of have to start this like figuring out process over again. And so I don't know. It's unfortunate, and I agree with you. I'd be shocked if he played again because there's no reason to at this stage. No reason to risk anything else getting hurt in a season where there's nothing to win.
Yeah, and through some of my research, there was a really good article written by an expert on wrist injuries over for Bullets Forever, and it was actually written for Bradley Beal when he did the same injury, and he was talking about it. And there's some pretty scary stuff in there. I can't lie. I think there was a 25% re-injury rate in the first 5 years, which is pretty concerning to read about. And generally, like, it is something that you can lose some functionality a little bit. I mean, it was interestingly Jeff Stotts, who's a kind of like a good injury consultant on this. He said that the surgery is going to be accompanied by a lengthy recovery. Right. So that to me tells me he is not coming back anytime soon. And
does it say anything about with Beal or Brown if it was on their shooting hand or shooting wrist?
That's a great question.
Because
I don't know.
This is Brandon's right wrist.
Absolutely. You've got a great point there. That is absolutely a great point, right? It was his left wrist for Bradley Beal.
Shit.
Let's find out. Come on, Jaylen Brown. Tell us it was the right. Tell us it was the right. Left wrist for Jaylen Brown.
Oh, my God. Damn it, bro.
No. So basically, Brandon Miller is pretty much having his right wrist amputated, is what we're saying.
Hey, he's a pioneer of this. All right. He's gonna get back better than ever. And hopefully this never happens again. We're signing Hornets fans. We're signing up for another year of wristwatch, man. Just another year of every dead ball, every timeout, watching the star player run around and get his wrist warm and loose, and hoping nothing got aggravated again. Can't wait.
It's just so exhausting, right? I'd not even thought the right wrist. I knew the right wrist was a shooting wrist, and that was a concern. I'd not thought about to check what wrist those guys injured. And like Sam, like we all shot a basketball. If you have a wrist injury with your right wrist, man, you're trying to shoot the ball. Like, and Brandon Miller, what is his best skill? Shooting the ball. I mean, the only hope maybe here, because I don't even know what play happened. Right? Yeah, did it happen in a certain play? Has it been bothering him for a while? Like, is this maybe why his shot has been a little bit inconsistent this year? I guess I'm maybe wish casting a little bit there, but I think I saw somewhere that someone say it did happen in that Utah game. it's just devastating. Like this could. I don't want to be the negative guy, but like you've covered the Hornets for this long, you just generally go to the worst case scenario, and that's that. There could be concerns about that right wrist functionality even after the surgery when he comes back, and that's a risk.
You know what? I'm gonna throw this out there. Maybe he'll use this time to work on the left hand. Throw it back to Mason Plumlee a little bit. You know,
we're turning to Mason Plumlee to take positive inspiration from things, then we really are struggling right here, right? Yeah. I mean, for Brandon Miller, now that he's out, we can actually look at how the Hornets performed with the core four. I'll go with Eric Collins' core four for now on the court for the season. Brandon Miller, Lamelo Ball, Mark Williams. Go on.
Real quick. So this is a tangent. I'm sorry, but a few years ago, did they try to make this a thing with Rozier, Ball, and Bridges? Was it something like that, or was like
probably Hayward? Was Hayward in there as well?
No,
he would have been in there.
He wasn't though. Like there was some name that the broadcast team kept throwing out there, and it did not include Hayward. And I've been trying. If anyone can knows what I'm talking about, remember what I'm talking about, please let me know. Because when I hear core four, it brings me back to that. I remember hearing that, like, what the hell? I know why they didn't include Hayward because he wasn't playing, but they had some name like core four-esque name for those three, and didn't include Hayward in it. And I thought it was hilarious. And I don't know. That always stuck with me, and I can't remember the name of it though. But go ahead, sorry.
So Brandon Miller, Lamelo Ball, Mark Williams, Miles Bridges on the court this season. Probably going to be the total sample size that we get now. And I can tell you right now, Jeff Peterson was hoping he'd have more of a sample than this. 205 possessions they played in total. An offensive rating of 121.5. That ranks in the 91st percentile. So very good offensively. Had a defensive rating of 119.4. That ranks in the 13th percentile. That is not good at all. So overall, that lineup was a plus 2.1. Which basically saying is they were slightly positive, slightly above water. Now, that's actually made quite a lot of progress in the last couple of weeks because I checked that about a week to 10 days ago, and it was a lot lower than that. But obviously, they've played a little bit better basketball here as of late. But that's the sample they've got to work off now, and it's not enough to take away any key takeaways. But at least you can look at that lineup and go, they were better on average than the opposition when those four were on the court. And it's not like you looked at those minutes and you went, well, that just didn't work at all. Are we really going to look to bring that four back next year and run it back again when it was completely dysfunctional? It wasn't that. And that's pretty much all we can take away from it right now. Yeah.
Because on paper, it should work. And to your point, it's just they haven't seen it fully realized. I'm gonna forever have an issue with Bridges being in that group just because of the age difference and just the.
I agree.
You know, by the time legit. Because like when Melo, Miller, and Mark are all Bridges' age, Miles gonna be 30, and it's like, all right, we're gonna be part of this thing anymore. Like, probably not at that point. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe they got Cooper Flag to the mix. Who knows?
Anything else on the depressing story that is Brandon Miller's injury? We won't get to watch Brandon Miller play basketball for another 10 months. How does that make you feel?
It sucks. It really sucks. And he'll miss however long he's out for. Like that time, I don't know what kind of weight training he'll be able to do. Because that's like a part of the Brandon Miller conversation long term is what's he look like when he gets stronger too, you know? And that's going to be delayed to some degree. But no, it's a problem. It sucks. It's very Charlotte. I don't know. So they got to do something. Like I know they changed the whole staff around. They got to burn some sage in that building or something. Like something's happening there. I don't know what it is. The franchise is cursed.
I wonder how long the run is of like Hornets players missing a key starter for the season at some point during the season. I feel like that just stretches back for a long, long period of time. Yeah. Look, Brandon, get well soon. Rest the wrist up. And we will see you in, hopefully, for training camp. Yes. And hopefully you are full go and we're not finding out that he's like not done contact, in training camp and everything like that. And you never know, we might even get an update from the team on how long he will be out for. Maybe it'll be after the surgery, which I think I read again that sometimes they wait a week or two for the swelling to go down before getting the surgery after a tearing ligament, because it makes the surgery a higher chance of success. So it might be a week or two until we hear about that. But yeah, get well soon, Brandon Miller. It's a shame to see you go out. I would say overall, probably like not the second season you were looking for from Brandon Miller. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. I don't think he was terrible, but he didn't make that leap that I expected. Yeah, and that partially that's on me too, because I had pretty high expectations of him in year 2. But no, yeah, it's a killer. It's a killer. Yeah, because it feels like you're gonna put everything. It feels like he's gonna be 1 year behind now, like losing this season and going into year 3. That's gonna be like really like year 2, and I don't know. Either be 23 at that point, and you just gotta hope that this thing isn't a recurring thing now. Like it's a thing now that you got to be aware of. Every time he hits the floor, every time he goes up for a dunk or a block, or gets blocked, or gets any type of contact on his hand, or gonna reach and foul, like it's gonna be on the top of Hornets fans' minds now. So we got another thing to worry about, y'all.
Yeah, we didn't have enough of those, so that's good. Right, let's finish out here on the Nick Richards trade. Nick Richards was traded since the last time we spoke. We talked about Nick Richards being the most likely guy to be moved, and we said it was because he has value and it's a credit to him. And it happened literally within days of us recording. Look, I know the Hornets and Heartbreak guys kind of broke down the full trade last week. I also broke down the trade for culture.com as well. I think I gave it a B+ for the trade overall. What were your thoughts when you saw the news come through?
First, I was glad Nurkic wasn't coming back. I was glad about that.
I bet you were after a conversation last week.
Because when I saw the Shams tweet, I saw that Nick Richards was the leading, like the name he led with first. That feels good, by the way. Like having a Hornet be the main guy in the thing is nice. But I assume when I saw him, I thought, okay, Nurkic can't be in the trade because I think Nurkic would have led the headline. But I'm so happy for Nick Richards. Like I think he is going to thrive out there and has an opportunity to really raise up his game playing with a higher end roster, because he's such a dirty work guy. Like he's not going to elevate a roster, but when things are already elevated, he's going to raise the ceiling, or sorry, raise the floor of what's going on, allowing the other guys to be themselves. So him in that environment is awesome. So I'm super happy for him, especially a guy who was basically like they kept drafting over him. Like since they drafted him, right? Even on draft night, like they had Vernon Carey selected above him. They took Kai Jones. They took Mark Williams. They kept trying to replace him.
Yep.
And
he just came through.
He kept persevering and powering through. And he was on, like, I know it was like only 5 or something games this season, but he was on pace to do something I think really special before he got hurt. And like really proved that, like, hey, listen, I know people think I'm something, but I promise you I'm something more. And I think he's getting a chance to prove what he's fully capable of in Phoenix. So on that end, I'm super happy for Nick. And for Charlotte, I think it's solid business. Like the Okogie piece coming back is kind of like whatever, right? I don't view it really as a basketball move. It's really a push from a cap point of view because it's non-guaranteed next season. So just like Nick Richards was $5 million non-guaranteed next year, same thing with Okogie. Like that's a push. And then you're also bringing in more second-round picks when they're going to have to give up 2 second-round picks because of the lottery protected pick in this year's draft. So they owe that to San Antonio, right?
Yep.
So the Hornets have to pay out 2 second-rounders. So anytime you can get more back, it reduces that burden, right? Because of that lottery protected pick in this year's draft. So I think it makes sense all around. And the Hornets aren't a good enough team to have a guy like Nick Richards on it. Like there's no need for him to be there. He's useful. He's great. He's a really good player, but it just doesn't make sense for what the Hornets.
Especially when his starting center picks up 4 fouls in the second quarter against Daniel Gafford. He's useful. Hey, look, Musa Diabate battled well. I thought.
Yeah, true.
Look, yeah, I wrote in my kind of like trade preview piece that Nick Richards was between 2 to 4 second round picks, and they got 3 for him. I know they gave one up, but the one they gave up is going to be in the 50s in this year's draft, and they already have the Philly pick and the New Orleans pick early in the draft. Like, they just don't need that pick. It's burning a hole in their pocket. So, and the picks that they got, this is the thing that I think is probably most under discussed. I think there's some really, really high value second round picks. 2031 picks from Denver and Phoenix. They're both teams that are old, capped out, asset poor, who don't project to like be good in 6 years. Like, if they are good in 6 years, they've threaded a almost impossible needle, or they've hit gold with something, I think. The 2026 Denver pick, they don't have a pick currently in 2026, like you say, because of that aforementioned trade. So they don't have a second round pick yet before this trade. Now they do. Again, like that Denver pick will probably be 45 to 50. So again, it's not great value, but to like at least have a pick in that draft is useful. Like, you want to have second round picks in every draft when you are a rebuilding team, because you never know how things are going to break. So yeah, overall, I think it was pretty solid value. I gave it a B+. I echo everything you said about Nick Richards. I've always said that I think he's probably one of the best backup centers in the league and could start for a team. I think probably the feeling around the NBA was that he was just a guy, just a backup guy, and didn't really have that. So I'm hoping that he does find success, because that will help prove me right as well. But interesting that they made this move early, very early. I think Jeff Peterson even said, like, because they played Phoenix in those back-to-back games, that like fast-tracked discussions a little bit. So maybe had some meetings around there. So it's interesting why they decided to pull that trigger now. Maybe the Suns put something else on the table. If you do the trade now, we'll give you X. But that Okogie piece, you're right. It's a team option, I think it is, next year, or non-guaranteed. So he might stick around. He might not. It might depend if Cody Martin sticks around and if he's still here by the end of the trade deadline, because then maybe you do keep Okogie because he gives you like a defensive wing that could fill the Martin role. It gives you a bunch of more flexibility, which Peterson says every time he speaks to the media, he wants flexibility, and that's what this trade has given you. So, yeah, I think overall I was pretty happy with the move and thought it was fair value.
You think Nick is like, fuck, I gotta play with Mason Plumlee again, or no?
But this is the Hornets to Charlotte to Phoenix conveyor belt of Mason Plumlee, Nick Richards, Frank Kaminsky. We're missing someone else.
Biz was in there too, isn't it?
Bismack Biyombo, absolutely, yeah. Like, there's, I can't wait till Mark Williams is on the Suns in 2031. It's gonna be fun to see.
Who gets traded next?
Who gets traded next? Yeah, that's a great question.
If anybody.
Cody Martin. I think he's the one that I think is easiest to move because of his contract size and status. Vasiljevic, I think, will be one that goes, but maybe like right at the end of the deadline, where it's just like a tax dodging move by someone.
Right.
So it could be just like someone sitting there waiting for it. But yeah, Cody Martin and Vasiljevic.
I agree. I think Cody is the best player that could be traded.
Yeah.
But, so I think he'd go. I think he'd go.
And there was buzz again, I think, from Mark Stein's Substack that the Suns pushed to have Cody Martin involved in that trade as well.
Okay.
But I mean, Charlotte weren't going to do that unless they threw that 2031 first in, and I didn't think Phoenix are putting a first on the table for Richards and Cody Martin. So
that'd be crazy.
I can understand why that didn't come to fruition.
Okay.
But yeah, farewell, Nick Richards.
Yes.
Great second round success story, which there haven't been many of in Charlotte over the years. I think he joins Cody Martin as they're the only 2 second-round picks ever to sign a second deal after their rookie contract in Charlotte Hornets history. So it's pretty good company to have, Nick. Right. I think that's everything. Anything else from your end?
No, man. The Hornets on a winning streak, bro. We're up, man. All's right in the world.
And they've got this massive. They go away to Memphis, don't they, for this next game?
Mm-hmm.
And then they have this absolutely massive homestand, longest homestand in team history. I think it's 9 games, which is crazy. So there's going to be a lot of home Hornets basketball. Hopefully the crowd can get in. Hopefully they can keep playing good, entertaining games like this, and like people can just enjoy it. Like they're not going to get playoffs, they're not going to be great, but let's hope people can just enjoy it, and that's what I'm hoping the Hornets can do from here on out.
Oh, no doubt. Keep it up, boys.
Next up for the final part of the podcast, you're going to hear a little solo pod from me that I recorded earlier today, talking about a mock trade deadline project that I'm involved in. I've made 3 trades already as the Charlotte Hornets. I have a 4th one pending. Lots of interesting trade details. Trades involving Nick Richards, Cody Martin, Miles Bridges, Trey Mann, all in my mock trade deadline. So I'll give you a little bit of a solo pod story on kind of how that came about, what my role is, and what I'm trying to do with that. So hopefully you enjoy that. And if not, Sam, I will speak to you next week. And look, I'm looking after your guaranteed win that you said was Utah.
Yeah. Count it. Locked
which
in.
Came through. Never in doubt that Utah game, was it? Never once in doubt for a second.
Not even for a little bit. Nah.
Not even for a little bit. I want you to give us one locked-in win for this homestand.
Brooklyn. Is that too? You know what?
That's really bold.
You know what? I'll take it back. New Orleans. No. I'm kidding.
They're playing better. I think Brooklyn's good. I think stick with Brooklyn.
I was gonna go bigger. Denver. If the Wizards could beat the Nuggets, the Hornets can beat the Nuggets. February 1st. Come on, lock in.